From VOA Learning English, this is the Education Report. Security risks are said to be widespread in the southern Afghan province of Kandahar. Yet, the number of women working in Kandahar has risen during the past year. The provincial government employs more than 1,150 women, most of them as teachers. That is up from about 900 female teachers last year. Kandahar is the former power base of the Taliban and its leader, Mullah Muhammad Omar. The Taliban ruled Kandahar from 1994 to 2002. During that period, women were banned from working outside the home. Most girls could not attend school. This year, 500 girls will complete high school. Mohammed Awaz Nazari is an education official in the province. He said Kandahar has about 47,000 female students, and the numbers are rising. He described an increasing demand for jobs among both educated and uneducated women. In addition to government jobs, women are working for private businesses. Mariam Durrani operates a local radio station. She says women in Kandahar need more job opportunities, but she adds they must strengthen the gains they have already made. A non-governmental group, the Afghan School Project, has given women scholarships that can lead to careers. The recipients attend programs at the Kandahar Institute of Modern Studies. The institute offers training in business management, information technology, English, and communications. Some Afghans have expressed concern that the Taliban could regain power after international forces leave Afghanistan. And they say the progress of women's rights could be lost if that happens. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Education Report. American educators plan to launch 50 new schools in Kenya. The new schools of Bridge International Academies are set to open in January, at the beginning of Kenya's school year. The goal of the private group is to educate children of families who make $2 a day or less. They opened their first school in Kenya in 2009. Since then, the number of schools has increased to 200. Bridge officials Shannon May, Jay Kimmelman, and Phil Fry say they want to educate 10 million children around the world. On the Bridge International Academy's website, the three friends say their effort began with a question. They asked why there were no plans to educate all the world's poorest children. They expect their early education business to make a profit, even though it is designed for very poor areas. Their low-cost plan uses new technology to help teachers and to follow student progress. It also tracks operations in each school. They call this new system Academy in a box. Every bridge teacher uses a Nook e-reader. The electronic reader provides teachers with daily lessons. The school provides students with books that match the electronic lessons. The lessons have been developed by trained educators for all Bridge International Academy's classes. The lessons are designed to meet the requirements of Kenya's National Education Plan. Bridge's large class sizes and teaching methods are not usual in the schools of developed countries. They are not considered the best for learning. Yet, supporters say the bridge operation compares well with public education in Kenya. The average cost to attend a bridge school is about $5 a month. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Prasuti. From VOA Learning English, this is the Education Report. A new experimental program using MOOCs, or Massive Open Online Courses, opened recently in Kigali, Rwanda. The Kepler project is designed for people in the developing world. It uses MOOCs provided by foreign universities. It combines these online classes with help from local instructors and an internship program. A business foundation is helping to finance the first 4 years of the project. The students in the Kepler project pay no tuition. 50 students are taking part in the first class in Rwanda. Canadian educational consultant Tony Bates praises the Kepler program for giving students a way to earn college credits. Students can earn academic credit through the Kepler Project's agreement with Southern New Hampshire University in the United States. Mr. Bates also praises Kepler for providing local support and tutoring in Rwanda. But he says a lack of technology limits the usefulness of such a system in Africa. He says developing countries lack enough internet service outside major cities. Students may have mobile phones, but usually with very low bandwidth. Mr. Bates says it costs $1 American to watch an 8-minute YouTube video on a low-cost handset. That is about the same as many Africans earn in a day. Tony Bates says streaming long video lectures would be too expensive for at least the next 5 to 10 years. He says using materials designed for mobile devices may be better. He notes examples like math videos from the Khan Academy and courses from the Carnegie Mellon Open Learning Initiative. He says these materials are designed for distance learning and are more interactive. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Prasuti. From VOA Learning English, this is the Education Report. Public universities in Nigeria have reopened after a nearly 6-month-long strike by teachers. Repeated strikes can add months, even years, to the time it takes a student to finish a study program. Students at public universities across Nigeria say they are worried about exams and completing their project work. The Academic Staff Union of Universities, a labor group, suspended the strike in December. Part of the settlement was a government promise to invest billions of dollars during the next 5 years in university buildings and equipment. The government said that soon 25% of the nation's budget will be spent on education. Some teachers say the strike was really about pushing the government to make Nigeria's universities better. Laz Emetike is with Delta State University. He says the strike was not only to improve conditions for university teachers, but was meant to help everyone. He says better science laboratories and other improvements will let Nigeria compete with other parts of the world. Countries throughout Africa, not just Nigeria, are considering how to answer the exploding demand for admission to universities. These countries must also improve academic values and requirements and find ways to pay teachers enough to keep them. Hundreds of thousands of students pass college entrance exams every year, but many cannot attend public universities because there are not enough classrooms or teachers. University lecturers say they will be watching to make sure their schools get and effectively use the money the Nigerian government has promised. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Presutti.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Education Report. Nigeria has one of the world's highest rates of people who cannot read or write. But a government agency is taking steps to educate more than 400,000 Nigerians in Kano State. The Kano State Agency for Mass Education has set high goals for literacy, the ability to read and write. Minister of State for Education, Nyesom Wike, reported on the situation last September. The minister said the number of illiterate Nigerian adults has increased by 10 million over the past 20 years. The current total is 35 million. To improve that situation, Kano's education agency has joined with Education for All, a project of the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. Working together, they have launched more than 8,000 adult literacy classes in 44 areas. Their hope is to raise adult literacy levels to 90% in Kano State by 2015. The agency says it now has 16,000 people to teach and train students. Another goal is to create jobs and improve living conditions. The Kano City Women's Center is one of many learning centers for young and adult women. It serves hundreds of students at its school and at a vocational or occupational center. At the center, women learn sewing skills and make products like soaps and air fresheners. 25-year-old Halima Aminu is a mother of 3 children. She started going to the Kano City Women's Center in 2010. Now she is in her final year at the senior secondary level. Halima Aminu hopes to continue her education at the next level and someday become a medical doctor. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal. From VOA Learning English, this is the Education Report. Community colleges in the United States have a lot to offer. Educators say these 2-year colleges may be a good choice for international students who have finished secondary school and want to study in the U.S. Today we tell about a program for such students. It is called the Community College Initiative Program. It is designed for students from areas underserved in education and skills training. It lasts 1 school year. Since 2007, about 2,100 students from 20 nations have taken part in the program. The Bureau of Educational Affairs of the State Department provides for their needs. 3 consortia, or organizations, of community colleges work with the Bureau of Educational Affairs to administer the program. Schools across the United States take part. Cider Rahman is project director of the Community College Consortium, led by Northern Virginia Community College. He says many students in poor rural areas do not have an equal chance to succeed. At the start of their stay in America, students deepen their knowledge of English and learn about their school's surroundings. They can choose from among several fields of study, such as information technology, business administration, and agriculture. Other areas open to them include media and journalism and engineering. Students attend classes and study at participating community colleges. They can also join in internship programs with businesses or nonprofit organizations. You can get more details of the Community College Initiative Program from the Public Affairs section of the U.S. Embassy in your country. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carla Babb. From VOA Learning English, this is the Education Report. Growing up can be hard in poor neighborhoods where crime is common. That is the situation Marco Antonio Aguilar faced when he started at Garfield High School in Los Angeles, California. The boy hated school. He says he had the wrong friends, often missed classes, and even got into fights. The school suspended him, barring him from attending classes. He almost was sent to a school for problem students. But Marco Antonio changed his behavior. He says a talk with his mother helped him change. And he praises his teachers for the help they provided. But now, students at Garfield High no longer receive suspensions. The punishment itself has been suspended. Jose Huerta, the Garfield High principal, took the action when he first arrived at Garfield more than 4 years ago. Back then, more than half the students were leaving school without finishing their studies. At the same time, Garfield was suspending nearly 700 students yearly. But Mr. Huerta had other ideas about how to deal with young people who misbehave. He said most of the suspensions were for behavior known as willful defiance. He said that could include something as minor as chewing gum in class. Under Mr. Huerta's leadership, students involved in willful defiance first talk to a teacher. Then a parent may get involved. Finally, group support can be provided. Today, Garfield graduates 85% of its students. And last year, the Los Angeles Unified School District changed its punishment policy. The whole district banned suspension to punish students for willful defiance. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Education Report. 60 years ago, the highest court in the United States changed American education. On May 17, 1954, all 9 judges of the Supreme Court ruled against racial separation in public schools. The court said such segregation in schools violates the United States Constitution. At that time, many school systems had separate schools for white students and black students. The segregation was the result of a court ruling from 1896. That decision permitted so-called separate but equal schools. Some schools had only white children. Others had only black children. Then, about 60 years later, the case Brown versus the Board of Education came before the Supreme Court. It involved 5 separate legal actions, but it centered on an African American child in Kansas. Linda Brown lived just a short distance from a school, but she was forced to travel across town to a black school because the school near her permitted only white students. Aderson Francois teaches law at Howard University in Washington, D.C. He says the case ended official racial separation in U.S. schools. But he also criticizes the ruling. He says it should have set a time by which segregation had to end. Some segregated schools did not obey the Supreme Court ruling until the 1960s. Even today, many schools are still effectively segregated. In 2012, the Civil Rights Project at the University of California studied racial populations in schools. The study showed that many schools are less racially mixed than 40 years ago. The study says social and economic issues are partly to blame. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Presutti.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Education Report. The reported rape of a 6-year-old student at a well-known school in Jakarta has received widespread media attention in Indonesia. The costly Jakarta International School, or JSI, serves many children of diplomats and wealthy foreign families. Indonesian police have arrested several suspects in connection with the incident reported in early April. Similar reports of sexual abuse at the school have followed. This week, another kindergarten student also said he was abused at the school. The Education Ministry ordered the kindergarten closed. The ministry said the school had been operating without permission. Tim Carr heads the Jakarta International School. He described the recent incident at the school as an unimaginable tragedy. He said the school is taking all measures to prevent another. Years ago, American investigators named a former JSI teacher as one of the worst child sex offenders ever identified. American William James Vahey worked at the school from 1992 until 2002. He killed himself last month after U.S. federal investigators seized some of his computer records. The evidence included 90 photographs of boys Vahey reportedly abused. The number of reported rapes is increasing in Indonesia, but the reports do not get a lot of public attention. Last year, the Indonesian Child Protection Commission declared child rape a national emergency. But it said it does not have dependable numbers on rape. A large part of Indonesian society considers it offensive to talk about sexual abuse. Victims are often afraid to report such crimes. They fear it will dishonor their families. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Education Report. Many people believe that teaching music to children makes them smarter and better able to learn new things. But the organizers of a new study say there is no scientific evidence that early musical training affects the intelligence of young people. An estimated 80% of American adults think music classes improve a child's ability to learn and do well in school. Researchers at Harvard University, however, have found that there is one thing musical training does not do. They say it does not make children more intelligent. Samuel Mayer is a graduate student in Harvard's School of Education. He says it is a mistake to think that learning to play a musical instrument improves a child's intellectual development. He says the proof comes from studies that measured the mental ability of two groups of 4-year-olds and their parents. One group attended music class. The other went to a visual arts class. He says tests failed to provide evidence that those in music classes were any smarter. Samuel Mayer says only one study of many has seemed to show a small percentage increase in IQ, intelligence scores, among students. But he says musical training can be important for cultural reasons. In his words, we teach music because music is important for us. He notes that the works of writer William Shakespeare are not taught so that children will do better in physics. He says Shakespeare is taught because it is important. He does not think music needs to be any different than that. A report on the effects of music training in children was published in the journal PLOS ONE. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Presutti.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Education Report. Thousands of young people in Senegal attend and live at religious schools called daras. These schools accept only boys. The students are called talibé and they study the Quran. Some daras force students to ask strangers on the street for money and food. The government had promised to stop this forced begging by 2015. But the organization Human Rights Watch says there has been little progress. Recently, a government study found that more than 30,000 students were begging in Dakar, the capital. The boys were reported to be as young as 4 years old. They are often walking the streets shoeless and in torn old clothes. Matt Wells is a West African researcher for Human Rights Watch. He says the boys must bring back a required amount of money, sugar, and rice or face punishment. He says teachers will often severely beat talibé who fail to meet the demand. He also says the boys usually are hungry, live in dirty, overcrowded rooms, and receive very little real education. In March 2013, 8 talibé died in a fire in Dakar. Neighbors said they knew the children could not escape from the school building in which they were living. After the fire, Senegalese officials promised to take steps against child begging. But Human Rights Watch says the government has closed only one dara for safety reasons. HRW says there are hundreds more that violate students' rights. Senegal's Ministry of Justice says it knows of the problems and is working on new legislation. But a ministry official notes there is cultural resistance to laws restricting religion. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal. From VOA Learning English, welcome to the Education Report in Special English. Millions of students have been taught a formula that has nothing to do with chemistry or mathematics. The formula is for writing a 5-paragraph essay. First, write an introductory paragraph to state the argument. Then, add 3 paragraphs of evidence. Finally, write a conclusion. Linda Bergman is director of the Writing Lab at Purdue University in Indiana. Her job is to help students, including international students, improve their writing. Professor Bergman has worked with many students who learned this traditional 5-paragraph formula. She says international students sometimes have difficulty with this formula if they learned a different writing structure. But just knowing how to write a 5-paragraph essay is not going to be enough for a college student who has to write a longer academic paper. As Professor Bergman notes, the formula is too simple to deal with subjects that require deeper thought and investigation. Karen Goshik works for the Institute for Writing and Rhetoric at Dartmouth College in New Hampshire. The Institute has a big library of online writing materials on its website. So, what are the qualities that make up good writing? Karen Goshik says there are no simple answers, except maybe for one. That is, there is no formula that students can follow to guarantee a well-written paper. In some cultures, students organize their paragraphs to build toward the main idea at the end of the paper. American college students are usually expected to state their thesis at the beginning of their paper. And American professors generally want students to use short sentences. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Education Report. Reaction appears mixed to a recent United States Supreme Court decision on affirmative action in university admissions. Affirmative action in admissions means that schools give special consideration to some racial or ethnic minorities. The goal is to create a more diverse campus and to give more opportunities to groups that are underrepresented in higher education. The Supreme Court ruled that race can be one of many factors considered when a student applies to a college or university. The court said education benefits from having diverse student populations. Some legal experts thought the justices would strike down a 2003 Supreme Court ruling. That ruling let universities use race in admissions decisions, but as just one factor among others. In the new decision, the justices did not deal with the question of affirmative action itself. Instead, the justices sent the case back to a lower court for further consideration. A white woman who had been denied admission to the University of Texas at Austin brought the case. Abigail Fisher argued that it was wrong to reject her when minority students with similar grades and test scores were accepted because of affirmative action. Wade Henderson is president of the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights. He said the new decision confirms that race can be a factor in admissions. Ada Malloy is with the nonprofit American Council on Education. She says many schools do not generally give special consideration to race or ethnicity of applicants. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Presutti. From VOA Learning English, this is the Education Report in Special English. The Afghan Youth Orchestra performed in the United States in February. 48 young musicians traveled from Kabul to play at some of the most famous American music halls. They performed at the Kennedy Center in Washington and Carnegie Hall in New York City. The last stop was Boston, Massachusetts, where they performed at the New England Conservatory of Music. The musicians perform versions of Western classical compositions and also traditional Afghan music. Violins and trumpets played along with the rubab and a sitar in a performance of Bolero by Maurice Ravel. The State Department and the United States Embassy in Kabul funded most of the trip. Secretary of State John Kerry called the young musicians ambassadors of peace. Afghanistan's former Taliban rulers banned music when they took power in 1996. Also, under the Taliban, girls were not permitted to be educated after the age of 8. Today, music is studied and played freely in Afghanistan. The musicians in the orchestra are male and female, and between the ages of 10 and 22. Most are orphans or were homeless. Ahmad Sarmast started the orchestra. A few years ago, he founded the Afghanistan National Institute of Music in Kabul. The youth orchestra developed from that school. Ahmad Sarmast says he is very pleased with the accomplishments in such a short time. He says the idea of the trip was to change the way people view Afghanistan. The children, he says, are ambassadors of Afghan culture whose efforts reflect the changes in their country in the last 10 years. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Presutti. From VOA Learning English, this is the Education Report. Imagine you are a student in Mexico, and your teacher asks you to write a report about the country's ancient Aztec civilization. You now can do your own research on the subject through the World Digital Library, or WDL. One of the 8,000 items listed on this website is the general history of the things of New Spain. It was written in the 16th century by a member of a Roman Catholic religious order. Friar Bernardino Sahagún lived in what is now Mexico. He liked many qualities of the Aztecs and wrote 13 books about them in Spanish and Nahuatl, the Aztec language. The books are stored in Florence, Italy, but you can read every page and see every picture with the World Digital Library. The library has at least one item from every member country of the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, or UNESCO. UNESCO and the U.S. Library of Congress launched the WDL in 2009. Since then, more than 25 million people have visited part of the collection. The library provides free access to thousands of objects of cultural and historical importance. The library is looking for information about Arabic and Islamic science, says Musa Marawa. He is a WDL researcher who works on all of the library's documents in Arabic. Arab countries and their libraries are strong supporters of the World Digital Library. Mr. Murawa says the library shows the United States as a partner with Arab countries in an area other than military or security matters. The library also is helping countries make electronic copies of their documents so that they are available to computer users around the world. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Presutti. From VOA Learning English, this is the Education Report in Special English. More and more children in Liberia are leaving school to work in diamond mines. 15-year-old Mike Coleman dropped out of school several months ago. He left to search for diamonds in western Liberia to help his parents. The country's Ministry of Lands, Mines, and Energy says that Liberian diamond mines employ at least 1,500 children. Nora Kwai is the head of a junior high school in western Liberia. She says that more than 200 students, half of the school, dropped out this year to work in the mines. Liberia's unemployment rate is nearly 85%. The World Bank estimates that 95% of the country's population lives on less than $2 a day. Work in the diamond mines is difficult and dangerous, but the possibility of earning $50 for each diamond is too good for many people to turn down. Employing anyone under the age of 18 in diamond mines is illegal. But many mine operators are willing to hire children who are small enough to fit into the narrow tunnels and tight spaces of mines. Thomas Willey heads the Liberia mining entity in western Liberia. He says a worker's age does not matter to mine owners. And he says the operators do not force children to work for them. But Mr. Willey says the Ministry of Education should put measures in place to keep students in school. The United Nations Security Council helped ban the mining and export of so-called blood diamonds in Liberia in 2001, during the country's civil war. But the United Nations ended the ban in 2007. The diamond mines are again operating, increasing the demand for young workers. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Prasuti. This is the VOA Special English Education Report. International students have a lot of questions about studying in the United States. But what do you suppose is the most common question? We asked an expert right here in our building. Jessica Stahl is editor of VOA's Student Union blog. Jess blogs for international students interested in American higher education. She says the #1 question she gets is about financial aid and scholarships. Money is everyone's biggest concern. But unfortunately, that question is also the one with the most complicated answer. The short answer is this: financial aid programs are often just for American students, but programs for international students do exist. You just have to look for them. Jess says probably the next most often question is about language skills. People want to know how to improve their English. Of course, one way many students improve their English is with special English, like this program. But we like the Student Union's glossary of confusing words used in education. Readers can send in suggestions. One newly added word is catalog. An international student advisor wrote to say that new students generally have no idea what a university catalog is. So the glossary now includes this definition: a university catalog or college catalog is an official publication that contains all of the information a current or prospective student might need about academics and student services at a university. Jess has a group of foreign student bloggers at American schools. Even they were unsure what a catalog is. The students share their experiences studying in the United States. For example, how they feel when they face cultural stereotypes. Simba from Zimbabwe recently wrote about going to lunch with a group of American students. Simba said he felt hurt when one of them was surprised to learn that Facebook is available in Zimbabwe. Jess says the Student Union and its Facebook page get a lot of comments. She hears from a lot of students from China, Pakistan, Nigeria, Indonesia, pretty much all over the world. Jess gave us a list of websites where you can research colleges and universities, financial aid, and more. You can find that list at voaspecialenglish.com. She says the only must-know site for all international students is Education USA from the State Department. The address is educationusa.info. And if you only know one other site, it should be Study in the States from the Department of Homeland Security. That address is studyinthestates.dhs.gov. For VOA Special English, I'm Carolyn Prasuti.
This is the VOA Special English Education Report. Outdoors in the open air seems like a natural place to study natural science. It also makes sense in a place like Southern California, where people like to be outside a lot. Now, the Natural History Museum of Los Angeles County is working to bring the indoors to the outdoors for its visitors. The museum has redesigned an outdoor space into a living exhibit. This is a big change for the 1.5-hectare area. It used to include a parking lot. Now, instead of cars, it welcomes birds, butterflies, and other living things. Scientists who work at the museum come outside to describe plants and insects in the natural setting of this outdoor laboratory. Greg Pauly specializes in studying turtles, like the western pond turtle. He tells the students how development has changed its natural habitat. He says these turtles are happiest around small bodies of water that grow and shrink with the seasons. He tells the students that 150 years ago, before there were very many people in the area, all the streams were just seasonal streams. And the western pond turtle loved that habitat, he says, and with people, we have changed the habitat. Today, he says, there is a lot more permanent water, like a pond at the Natural History Museum itself. And he says the changing habitat is one reason why western pond turtles are shrinking in number. In addition to science lessons, the open-air exhibit can provide contact with nature in a way that some city children rarely get. Landscape architect Mia Lehrer says children can get real-life answers to questions they may be wondering about. For instance, she says some children do not know that ketchup comes from tomatoes, and they can see what strawberry plants look like to know that strawberries do not just come from a container in the store. Only parts of the new outdoor campus are open now, but Karen Wise says more changes are coming. Ms. Wise is the museum's vice president for education and exhibits. She says, now we are opening up the whole museum, making it an indoor-outdoor experience so that our visitors can be a part of the experience. The work is expected to be completed by June of 2013. Next year is the museum's 100th anniversary. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal. You can read, listen, and learn English with more education stories at voaspecialenglish.com. You can also find a video about the new outdoor exhibit at the Natural History Museum of Los Angeles County.
This is the VOA Special English Education Report. Some young Cambodians are learning a new sport, skateboarding. The country's first skateboard park is located on the grounds of a local charity group at the edge of Phnom Penh, the capital. 15-year-old Chea Sopanet has been skating for about 6 months. When I see the different styles from skateboarding, especially from the best skaters, I just want to be like them, he says. Sports like Khmer boxing and soccer are wildly popular in Cambodia. But Chea says skating has already become his favorite sport. The skaters are learning tricks like launching off a jump or half pipe and flying through the air on their narrow wooden boards. A non-governmental organization called Skateistan Cambodia organizes weekly programs at the park. Skateistan started its work in Afghanistan. Rory Burke works with the group, which expanded to Cambodia last year. He says skateboarding is definitely not a typical Cambodian pastime. He says they want to use it as something that says, hey, this is something different. Skateistan partners with local groups that work with young people. The park is on the grounds of the group known as PSE, where children attend school and learn a trade. There are almost 120 participants. Many come from troubled lives. Sean Burke says for some, skateboarding is a chance just to be a kid for a couple of hours a week. He says he hopes the program will help them build life skills through sport. 17-year-old Song Rota is a student at PSE. Sometimes I don't do well on topics like math, he says. I feel bad when I find it hard to keep up with my lessons. So that's why I skateboard, to improve my bad feelings. He says he began skateboarding more than a year ago. Before he started training, it seemed very easy, but it was very difficult to learn tricks, and he got hurt a lot from falling off. Rory Burke says learning to deal with the difficulties is part of the lesson for these young skateboarders. He says it's pretty daunting to get on a skateboard for the first time. And then, when they drop in for the first time and ride some of the ramps, it's pretty scary. It kind of teaches them, hey, you're going to fall down a bunch, but you've got to get back up. Skateistan Cambodia plans to open the country's first public skate park later this year in Phnom Penh. For VOA Special English, I'm Mario Ritter. You can watch a video about the skateboarding program in Cambodia at voaspecialenglish.com.
This is the VOA Special English Education Report. Thousands of protesters, including teachers, students, parents, and pro-democracy activists, marched in Hong Kong in late July. They were protesting a plan to teach Chinese patriotism classes in Hong Kong schools. Organizers said 90,000 people marched to the government headquarters, but police gave a lower estimate of 32,000. The Hong Kong government says the classes are meant to build Chinese national pride. The government plans to require the classes in elementary schools starting in 2015. But the government is urging schools to voluntarily launch the program when schools reopen this September. The curriculum includes a teaching booklet called the China Model. It praises the one-party rule of the Communist Party. However, it says nothing about the crushing of pro-democracy protests in Beijing in 1989. Ting Qing Chan has been teaching primary school for 38 years. He says he was not persuaded by the booklet. I don't even believe the content myself, so it's difficult to teach my students, he says. Chan Ye Long, a 9-year-old student in the march, said, China wants to unify Hong Kong. Our next generation only knows how great China is, but not the bad stuff. Protester Paul Young, a parent of 2 children, says he worries that too much one-sided education is not good for the mental development of young people. The protest was another sign of public concern about what critics see as the Chinese government's interference in the former British colony. Britain returned Hong Kong to China on July 1st, 1997. China promised to let the territory largely govern itself. This year, more than 100,000 people joined a pro-democracy march on July 1st. It was the largest such gathering in 8 years. Many of the protesters demanded that the city's new leader resign. Lang Jun-ying took office earlier that day. He was chosen by a mostly pro-Beijing committee. Willie Lam is a China specialist in Hong Kong. He says people in Hong Kong have lost trust in the Hong Kong government. He says they are afraid the administration of Lian Jun-ying will take orders from Beijing to support the Communist Party and not spread knowledge of China in a fair way. To read, listen, and learn English, go to voaspecialenglish.com. You can also find our caption videos at the VOA Learning English channel on YouTube. For VOA Special English, I'm Carolyn Presutti.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Education Report in Special English. In West Africa, students and teachers are busy with the new school year. However, aid workers say most of the children in northern Mali are unable to go to school. Militants, including some from the group Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb, took control of the north in April. The Islamists are enforcing their own severe form of Sharia law in the occupied territory. The United Nations Security Council is urging West African countries to speed up preparations for a military intervention in northern Mali. There are concerns that the conflict might spread to other countries. Large numbers of northerners have fled to the government-held south or to neighboring countries for safety. Tom McCormick is the Sahel director for the aid group Save the Children USA. Save the Children is part of the Education Cluster, a group created by the UN to coordinate the emergency response in Mali. The Education Cluster says the 240,000 students remaining in the north have little or no access to education. Cluster official Joa Keys says this increases the risk of children being recruited as child soldiers. He says children who are not in school are vulnerable to falling into the hands of armed groups. The Education Cluster surveyed 25 organizations in the north. 3/4 of them said local schools had been vandalized or destroyed. Half reported that teachers had fled to the south, and 1/3 said armed groups occupy schools. Human rights groups say the Islamists are actively recruiting children as young as 12 years of age. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal. This is the VOA Special English Education Report. About 18,000 refugees from Burma have come to the United States each year since 2007. Some have settled in Howard County, Maryland, between Baltimore and Washington. A local school began teaching English to the children of the refugees. But while the children learned the language, their parents did not. Currently, almost 50 Burmese youngsters attend Bowman Bridge Elementary School. Laurel Conran teaches English to speakers of other languages. One of her students is Ta-Ne Jiang. Another student is Ta-Ne's mother, Thien Yang. The teacher practices English with the mother at the mother's workplace. Many Burmese refugees work at Coastal Sunbelt Produce. The company supplies fruits and vegetables to restaurants and other businesses. Laurel Conran started English classes there to help refugees from the country also known as Myanmar. The program is a 6-week session held every Wednesday from 12 to 1 o'clock. Each week, Ms. Conran goes to Coastal Sunbelt. As the Burmese workers eat lunch, they also practice their new language skills. They sit with an English-speaking volunteer in small groups. Lisa Chertok is a manager at the company and also has a child at Bullman Bridge. She helped Ms. Conran develop the lessons. When the Burmese employees got here, they were very, very shy. Now, I find that they are more responsive as employees. They're more communicative. And as parents, they are also more involved in their children's school. Jonathan Davis is the principal of Bullman Bridge Elementary School. He says, "I really see it as the beginning of a great partnership between a business and a school. And we've just begun to scratch the surface with how that could benefit, really, the greater community." Mr. Davis hopes the lessons will help Burmese parents feel better about communicating with the school. Even as simple as making a phone call to say that their son or daughter is sick, even if that's the amount of English that they have gotten from the program, that truly will help us. For their work, Laurel Conran and Lisa Chertok received a Community Builders Award from Howard County. Ms. Conran says, "As a community, we want to work together collaboratively because when everybody works together, it's a win-win situation." And that's the VOA Special English Education Report. We have a video about the program at voaspecialenglish.com. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal.
This is the VOA Special English Education Report. Did you make a New Year's resolution? Some of you shared your goals at the VOA Learning English page on Facebook. And no surprise, many of you said at least one of your goals for 2012 is to speak English better. Daniel Kwan even went so far as to declare, "I'm definitely going to try to study English at least an hour a day." Jose Antonio Velarde says, "My first resolution is to speak English as fluently as my Spanish." And Tuti Riel says, "My New Year's resolution is to be able to speak English and Mandarin fluently and be a better person." Juwita Zulmi says she wants to improve her English and get a scholarship to study overseas. Another goal for 2012, a new boyfriend. Durley Johanna Barreto has these two resolutions: to speak English fluently and to get a job. Hsian Kim also has two goals: to lose weight and improve speaking English. And Katie Cecalina has these resolutions: don't eat meat, I'll take it easy, then to learn Spanish or Italian and find my real love. The last ones will be the most difficult, she thinks. Rafa Mintz's main goal is finishing high school and getting into a university. Lola Wesquito Octobrata says, I am going to get married and finish my undergraduate study with good results. And Uma Sharif is ready for the next step this year, a master's degree. Handri Permana has this resolution: be more meaningful before my time's up on earth. And Handri has this advice for others: have fun seriously in life. DNL Pajirian has fun playing the video game Defense of the Agents, or DOTA. DNL says, my New Year's resolution is, I want to spend more time on my studying than playing Dota. Refki Aditya's resolution is to not be lazy about studying anymore. And Noor Chinifa says, I want to be the best in my national examinations, to be a braver girl, and to take a scholarship abroad. Shara Radinka offered this comment: my resolutions are to pass vocational school, get a scholarship, and visit Singapore and Malaysia. And Sita Adyuda is thinking of Australia in 2012. I wish I could have a career abroad in my dreamland of Oz. And let's see, as I'm an optimist, I'm going to make it real this year. Ha ha ha. For VOA Special English, I'm Carolyn Presutti. Go to voaspecialenglish.com to read, listen, and learn English with our programs and activities. You can also find live lessons at the VOA Learning English page on Facebook.
This is the VOA Special English Education Report. 9 years ago, Maine became the first American state to provide laptop computers to all 7th and 8th graders in public schools. The northeastern state has since expanded that program to about half of its high schools. Now, one school system in Maine has launched a project to provide tablet computers, the Apple iPad, to all kindergartners. Some people have criticized the project as a waste of money, but school officials expect it to increase learning. Lori Gerard teaches 5- and 6-year-olds at Sherwood Heights Elementary School in Auburn, Maine. Before the students collect their iPad, they say a rhyme to remind them how to be careful with it. Fingers on the bottom, thumbs on top. That way my iPad won't drop. Ms. Gerard plans to use different applications to help her create a learning plan for each student. The iPads have been in her classroom since the school year began in September. The principal of the school, Laura Shaw, says the iPads quickly let children know if they answer questions correctly. When you have 18 kids in the classroom and you see 10 kids hands raised up, the teacher does her best to get around. But sometimes, with the iPads and certain apps, the kids get immediate feedback. Almost 300 kindergartners in Auburn are using iPads this year. Project coordinator Mike Muir says he believes the computers can help students improve in reading and math. Less than 2/3 of the 3rd graders in the school system are at what are known as benchmark levels. Mr. Muir says, one of our literacy interventionists was working with several of her students, and having a hard time with helping them be successful, she finally pulled out her own personal iPad and had them work on some apps for letter recognition and letter formation, and they met the benchmark very quickly. School districts in other states, including South Carolina, Tennessee, and Illinois, are also using iPads. The project in Maine costs $200,000. Most of that money is from the state and the federal government. Not everyone supports the project. Elliot Soloway is a computer science professor at the University of Michigan. It's ridiculous, he says, and not because of the iPads, but because of the amount of money. Is the iPad an effective learning tool? Educators in Maine plan to give a report at the end of the school year. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal. This is the VOA Special English Education Report. Question: which program is in Guinness World Records as the world's longest-running TV quiz show? Answer: it's Academic, a Saturday morning program for high school students. The show has aired in the Washington area for 50 years. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton competed on it when she was a teenager. Teams from local schools answer questions on subjects like history, literature, math, science, religion, politics, and sports. Susan Altman is the producer of It's Academic. She says, "It's a great age group to work with. They're fun, they're enthusiastic, they say funny things without even meaning to half the time." Ms. Altman's mother, Sophie, was a TV producer in the 1950s. She started It's Academic after local school officials asked her to create a program that showed outstanding students. Susan Altman says, "At that time, 1961, the United States was going through a lot of upheaval with school integration, and they wanted things to help out, to make the schools look good, and to show that integration could work and work well. So this is what she came up with." The show's host, Mac McGarry, says, "When we first started, the young people from various countries were not evident so much. Now, each program presents young people from all over the world, at least descendants from people all over the world." Mac McGarry is 84 and has hosted It's Academic since the beginning. He says, "Every time I look up, I see people who are just 17 years old, and somehow I think, well, I must not be growing older at all." Their enthusiasm is contagious, no question about it. More than 20,000 students have appeared on the show. Mac McGarry has asked more than 200,000 questions and gotten more than a few funny answers. We had a question one time: who defeated Napoleon at Waterloo? And the young fellow answered Duke Ellington. Another time, we had a question of who, along with Frederick Engels, wrote the Communist Manifesto? Groucho Marx. The correct answers, of course, are the Duke of Wellington and Karl Marx. Rockville High School in Maryland has won the championship on the show several times. Kelly Reeder led the team last year. "My friends who are on It's Academic think it's cool that I'm the captain of the A-team, But my friends who are not on It's Academic think it's kind of funny. You can find a link to a video about It's Academic at voaspecialenglish.com. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal. This is the VOA Special English Education Report. Current and former students from Berklee College of Music in Boston recently returned to the United States after 3 weeks in Kenya. They were part of a cultural exchange program aiming to influence lives through music. They taught music, performed, and donated instruments to a Kenyan community center. They also learned about traditional Kenyan music. Music is an important part of life in Kenya. Sam Lutomia works for the Berklee College of Music, but he was born and spent his early years in Kenya. He helped to create a group called Global Youth Groove. Its goal is to bring Western music to young Kenyans and get them to consider music as a career. Mr. Lutomia says he started talking with Berklee students and teachers, and they all liked the idea. Then they started collecting musical instruments. 13 Americans made the trip to Kenya in July. They included 4 high school students from the Boston area. The first stop was Nairobi. There, they got a chance to meet with local musicians and listen to them play. Project coordinator Aaron Culverson says the American group presented a gift during a visit to Kakamega in western Kenya. The gift included about 20 instruments, some recorders, and an entire drum kit. The Americans also gave out laptop computers and recording software. Many Kenyans attended the activities offered by the group. One Berklee student, David Chapman, said for some of the Kenyans, it was the first time to see and touch such instruments. Aaron Culverson says music can give someone a sense of power. When you put music in front of children, he says, it seems that their minds open up. Music gives them a chance to express themselves through songs and writing the songs. The Americans also performed at a national music festival. During the trip, Aaron Culverson says they met with local musicians and listened to them play. They also learned about traditional Kenyan instruments, dances, and songs. Trip organizer Sam Lutomia says he is happy with the levels of energy the exchange program has produced. He hopes the trip will take place every year and expand to neighboring countries. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal. You can learn English and stay informed every day from your computer or mobile device at voaspecialenglish.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and iTunes at VOA Learning English.